Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Fred, and I am so excited to have you here on the maiden voyage of the course that I have designed to help people actually learn how to heal other people. Oftentimes, healing them with conditions that they thought that they had that could never be healed, that were terminal, that were here permanently. As it turns out, there maybe is no such thing as a condition that actually fits that bill. And maybe we have an opportunity to make a real difference in the world of mental health healing by providing and actually exploring what it really means to be human and what it means to heal. What are the definitions that we've been using up until now? What are the pathways we've been using to pursue our healing? And what directions can we go to from here that actually can create healing for the circumstances or the experiences or the discomfort that someone might be feeling with their life with respect to all sorts of feelings like depression, anxiety, fear, distraction, anger, terror, sleeplessness, confusion, all those things which we have put into a basket that says that maybe there's something wrong with you. Well, maybe there's another way to look at this that can provide actual healing and not assume that those conditions have now come upon you and that you're afflicted, defective, infected, in some ways defective or affected. So yes, let me tell you a little bit about who I am and why I think I have something to say in this area. So my name is Dr. Fred, or Fred Moss, or Fred. And some people still call me Dr. Moss because I am a doctor. I am a MD. I graduated from Northwestern University in 1988. And I've been in the mental health field for even 8 years before that. I started in 1980 on January as a mental health worker, as a child care worker for adolescent boys at a state mental health facility. And even before that, I was somebody who was deeply interested in communication and helping people and listening to people and creating opportunities or optimization for people in their lives. What I learned early on, and maybe it really was the first day upon arrival on this planet, was that I could make a difference if I communicated effectively. See, I was born to a family in chaos and disarray. My brothers, who had their 10 and 14 years older than me, were having their conflicts with my parents. And what I'm told is that I was brought to this planet in order to bring peace and joy to that situation. So as soon as I arrived, that's what I did. And I really noticed, I'm not sure I recall all the noticing, but I did notice that when I was happy, the room would get happy. And when I was sad, I could draw attention away from what people were doing. And when I was angry, I could actually make a nuisance of myself. And all those things inside of learning that communication was very effective and could change people drastically. So I became very enchanted and very aware and very curious about learning how to communicate and applying that to my real life experience. And over the next several years, once I started school, I realized that conventional education wasn't going to be a place where I learned how to communicate. Instead, that was going to be a place where I learned how to acquiesce, how to do what I was told to do, how to copy the teacher, just sit down, be quiet, watch the whiteboard, and just do whatever she says. I guess it was a blackboard by then. And then it got worse in junior high and even worse in high school, where open discourse was the last thing that was encouraged in the classroom. Now, outside of the classroom, there was plenty of communication going on. I was able to get around town. I had a bicycle. I always liked venturing past the limits. I went wherever I wasn't supposed to go so I could learn how people over there or people on that side or people doing something different actually see this life. Because I realized, I guess, early on that the more I knew about how humans handle humanity, the better chance I had of being able to handle my humanity effectively. Eventually, I went to school, and then I didn't like school for the same reason. I went to the University of Michigan and didn't like it, and so I dropped out because I could realize that the direction of being an engineer wasn't going to work for me. I took a bus all the way to California and back eventually because I went to California hoping to figure out what my life was about and had a good summer, but it was unsustainable. And then I heard about a new technology and was drawn back to University of Michigan for this technology called computers. And it was like, well, I can do that. And I did that for a term or maybe 2 terms. And all it was punch cards and batch jobs with the only computer in all of Michigan that was worthwhile. a 2-acre facility right there in Ann Arbor. So that wasn't going to work. I dropped out again, and that's when I got this job as a child care worker. And it's really been mental health since then in all its many forms. So I stayed a child care worker as I completed medical school. I went to medical school because I didn't like the way that psychiatry was going, because I really wanted to be the ambassador for communication and connection, because I could see, especially on my job, that that's all I had to do was treat these kids, I don't know, 5 or 7 years younger than me, with the level of respect that I would want if someone was meeting me. And not treat them like they're sick and I'm well, or I have something to give them. Instead, treat them like, what's really here is that I can connect with them. And as another human, I can relate to them and actually step in and be somebody who can make a real difference in their life. So I wanted to apply that to psychiatry, and I went back so I could go to medical school my 3rd time in college and actually get that degree that would allow me access to meeting people on the other side and connecting with them the best I knew how. So that worked for some time. I got through medical school, and over time I had a career, and my career was very substantial. I had a very large practice in Cincinnati, and then I had a very large, broad career, 10 years being a traveling doctor. Then I worked in other countries in Asia and Europe as a psychiatrist. And I really have had a storied career where I've had been able to really see a lot about the universality of what it means to be human. And what I learned is that when people really are looking for what they're looking for, it's generally for a human connection, someone who gets them, someone who resonates with them, someone they can resonate and trust, and someone they can honor and share with. And this is so much more profound than anything that any kind of psychiatry has ever put together, or psychology, and I just wanted to bring that forth. Developing something called Welcome to Humanity, and then I wrote a few books, and now here we are on the back end of that into UnDoctor RESET. Who's the UnDoctor? Well, after some stories you'll hear more, but the UnDoctor is somebody who undiagnoses people, then unmedicates them, and then undoctrinates them, meaning that's the triad. We help people see that maybe, just maybe, there's nothing wrong with them. And what do I mean by that? Well, maybe what I'm saying is you were never broken. Because as it turns out, these psychiatric diagnoses, that many of them were designed after I started in the field in 1988, they're made up. I mean, they're actually just manufactured. They're pretty arbitrary in many ways. And although they offer a sense of an explanation for why someone is, quote, feeling bad, they don't do anybody any good by announcing or by declaring that there's something deficient or defective about the person. So they cause their own trauma in the first place, and then the treatments that are provided in the form of therapy or treatment plan or sometimes medication or a treatment modality just often serve to perpetuate the circumstance, to perpetuate the ongoing clinician-patient relationship, and perpetuate the condition itself by saying that you have this and you can never hope to leave it. You have a propensity towards it. Now you're just going to have to live with this discomfort. It turns out that that's not the case. We are never a slave to the habits that brought us to now. Our past experience does not predict how we see the world in the future. And if you allow yourself to get unloosened from the prevailing paradigm, you might be able to realize that, in fact, you have the capacity to change at any moment. You know, right now, you could actually say something that you've never said before, or you could be someone who you've never been before, or do something you've never, ever done before. And you could even think something you've never thought before. And these are the kind of things that are available once we unleash ourselves and unlatch ourselves from the idea that we have a condition for which we now are a slave to, or we now actually have to monitor. It sometimes does feel like these uncomfortable circumstances actually come upon us. But when you start realizing that it's not the circumstances that have to change, but simply our outlook, and with a few different tools and a few different mindset shifts, we can find those areas, and we can get that, in fact, you were never broken, even when you thought you were, and that the possibility of truly healing and walking away with new level of joy, a new level of power, a new level of freedom becomes really available. So this is what I've been dedicated to over the last 10 years and why I'm so thrilled to introduce it to you. Psychiatric diagnoses do not define your identity. You always have been whole beyond any label and diagnosis, even when you were sure that you weren't. And this challenges the idea that you are ever broken and invites you to reclaim your basic, true, honest to goodness, genuine, authentic, real self beyond diagnosis. So in order to get this done, we have to assume a couple things. Number one, we have to assume that we're in charge of the way that we see our world. And what do I mean by that? Well, I am the author. I am the choreographer. I am the person who's responsible for how I see the world. And I have access towards shifting my lenses. But one thing that's very clear is that no one else is responsible for how I manage things. And I can't blame other people for what I do when they say do or be a certain way. This is a very important and multi-level statement that really goes a long ways, and I include this with each and every course that I will be delivering each and every week. The idea is that we are sovereign. And what do I mean by sovereign? We are the choreographer. We are the author. We are the agent of how we see our life. And, under no conditions can someone else be responsible for something that you do or say or be. We like to blame others. We like to think that they made us do that. But of course, if we look back just a little ways, we can see that no one made us do anything. And that our responses, even if they feel like they weren't even our choice, were our choice. And we have an opportunity to really declare sovereignty, which is a tremendous amount of freedom from the inside out. So let's repeat after me. Sovereignty statement, foundation of responsibility and acceptability and accountability. I am a sovereign being. I am fully responsible for my life, my choices, and my healing. I do not assign blame to this program, its creator, or any participant for what I experience here or in life. I walk this path as a free and accountable human. Now, of course, I am responsible. I do assign that level of responsibility to the creator of this course because that is me. But no one else can do that, and I invite you to not blame anyone else for any of your actions ever. Your liability, your capacity, your responsibility and accountability allows you to be responsible for you, and for you not to be responsible for anybody else's actions, and certainly not to have anyone else be responsible for yours. So let's talk a little bit about how this course is structured. My design in treating this course, in creating this course, is that it was an 8-week course, mostly done online. So this is the first week of that 8 weeks. It comes in 4 modules, 2 weeks in each module. So this is week 1. Module 1 and week 1. And there's module 1, week 2, and then module 2, week 1, module 2, week 2, etc. So it's an 8-week course, and it provides a paced and manageable time frame to explore the concepts and really look at what's really here as we proceed down the sequence of delivering the UnDoctor RESET. There are 4 modules, as I said. They're comprehensive, they're well thought out and well designed and well researched, and each module does build on the previous one, guiding you through stages of understanding, reflection, and empowerment. Although you can miss some because I will be recording and I can send them to you, I invite you to come live because that's where we can share questions and answers and have some interactivity. There are about 24 detailed lessons, or should I say 6 lessons per module, 3 lessons per week, each designed to focus on specific themes and actionable steps towards freedom. I have these designed in the upcoming slides and in the conversations that we will have. And it's all built around this funny acronym called RESET. And RESET is what we're doing here. It stands for the strategic framework that helps undo our limiting beliefs and our habits. Release, examine, simplify, embody, and transform. Let's take a look. So this is how the community is built. So inside of the school network, I have the Reset Circle. And the Reset Circle can be found at school.com/Welcome to Humanity. The central hub for this course content will sit in that circle. And the resources are also there, as well as the community engagement with your co-participants and other leaders that may arise over time. Small supportive groups are there so that we can actually create a level of network that is manageable and useful and creative and interactive. Because without actually working in groups, essentially nothing gets done. So a group meaning anyone more than one person. Interactive sessions with instructors and peers are going to be made available, as this one is, and in that interaction, you'll get to ask me questions, get to ask other people questions, bring up your thoughts, feelings, and ideas or concerns, and have them dealt with. The other thing that's really important here is that there's a partner, and what I'm hoping for is that you meet a partner in this first meeting, or that you find somebody else in the course with you, and that you're able to have an accountability partner, someone that can keep you on speed, keep you on, keep you on focus, keep you on point, and have you all stay together so that you're exploring what's important to you as you take on this course material. We said a little bit about reset earlier. Let me tell you what I mean by reset. Release. What I mean by release is letting go of your labels, freeing yourself from your emotional identity, constraints of false diagnoses, actually allowing yourself to get rid of those imprisoning statements that have you feel like you're less than, that have you feel affected or defective. The truth is, if we can get rid of these, we can see life from a solid ground, from a different ground, that maybe there was nothing wrong with us even when we were uncomfortable or miserable or in pain. And maybe we can get rid of the alphabet soup diagnosis that we've taken upon for ourselves, again, assuming that that person who gave you that diagnosis was somehow correct and was properly identifying you as being different from normal. Perhaps you've been normal the whole time, even in that intense amount of pain, and not diminishing the experience, but just letting you know it might not be pathological or abnormal. Then we can examine, and what is it? We identify and reflect on our own beliefs, behaviors, and narratives that influence our thoughts and actions. So what I'm really saying here is we start being able to look back once we take a 10,000-foot view and really see what those beliefs are, what those behaviors are, how they got there, and how they might change. This is the possibility that becomes available when examining. We then simplify. We remove the distractions and the unhelpful habits that we have developed over time in order to create emotional space for healing and clarity. We can't create anything if something's already in a space, so we need to actually eliminate it. We need to create that space of nothing so that something can be put there, this time a new way of being, a new way of looking at the world. The fourth letter is embody, or is E for embody, and we show up authentically. What that means is as we're going through our experience, we show up as true and honest to our genuine core authentic self as we can. Meaning we start saying what we really think, we start being who we really know ourselves to be, and we start doing things that are aligned with our core values. When this is all true, when we're expressing our reclaimed truth, even as we're going the transition, this opens up the possibility for other people to resonate with us when they're in our presence at a similar frequency and be able to express their reclaimed truth and honesty as well in their own authenticity with confidence, as you will be doing or as I will be doing through words, actions, and presence in our life. And finally, transforming. Yes, this is the outcome that you can expect when we take full ownership of our healing journey rather than blame other people, blame other things, or blame conditions. By consciously shaping our life with sovereignty, intention, and agency, we get to take full ownership of our true and honest life and the healing journey that is the thread that we're living in that life. Now, we already did the sovereignty statement. Let's talk about what that really is. The sovereignty statement is looking at the personal responsibility, owning your choices, owning your actions, and without shifting blame. It becomes really important as it fosters a sense of self-empowerment and active participation in our own healing process. So by not blaming others, by not pointing to outside circumstances or what someone else did, said, or didn't do or didn't say, we get to take agency. We get to realize that we really are the captain of our world. We really do have, even if it feels like the only thing we can do right now is be angry or be sad or run away or stay in bed, Those are not the only things to do. Those are actual choices being made moment to moment. And even though it feels like they're thrust upon us, in fact, we have more agency than we allow ourselves to believe most of the time. The no blame culture is, well, no one is responsible, no one is accountable, no one's liable for any of your behaviors at any given moment. Now, I'm sure that you can, there's what ifs out there. Well, the cultivating idea here, the idea of cultivating our own self-compassion, what this realize is we no longer have to be a victim of others. We can actually come to grips with the idea that we have a choice in how we respond to any particular stimulus. This is very, very important, and initially it's so much easier to blame other things or other people, but when we first take it on and realize, wow, I am the master of my life, this opens up a tremendous amount of gates, a tremendous amount of possibility for us. No matter what condition you have, no matter what experiences in life or different traumas you had, no matter what you've been told about yourself or what you've achieved up until this point, the possibility now becomes available that from this point forward or the next step you make can be a different step than you thought you had to. We take full ownership for our life and full ownership for our healing journey, which allows us to make intentional decisions and allows us to actually proceed in a direction that can create some sense of optimization and comfort. We reclaim our power. Sovereignty means reclaiming our decisions. This is really important, making authority, our decision-making authority, and recognizing that our inherent worth is beyond external labels. We, again, separate away from the alphabet soup diagnosis that we may have had or they may have had if we're caregiving for somebody, and help people realize that they are really just themselves, going through this very difficult life, very difficult, with pain embedded in it in many areas. So it's not a matter of diminishing the experience, it's just a matter of unpathologizing the experience. And we help people see that even in those discomforts, you can step forward and make decisions that can give your life a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose, a sense of healing, a sense of freedom, a sense of peace, and a sense of joy. We shift the focus from within. This is also very important. And this is what we do with the sovereignty statement. We allow ourselves from looking out there at the problem to looking inside of us as the cure, as the solution. And the sovereignty statement is something I can recommend to make to yourself every single day. We have a freedom folder in case you wonder how you're going to get there. So the freedom folder goes through the Moss method. We have that in place. And we can show you all the 20 steps of the Moss method on the Moss method tracker. Then we have something that shows you what RESET really stands for. And then we have a tapering readiness worksheet for those people who are going to choose to decrease their medicines again. And nobody's choice but yours to decrease your medicine. You need a license to actually prescribe medicine for somebody. You truly don't need a license to recommend somebody to come off of medicine, although you have to be slightly careful in this liability-filled age. But I want to let you know that one of the ways to help someone come off medicine or to free themselves and detoxify is by letting them know, by connecting with them, that you get them, that you understand them, that you resonate with them, that you heard them. And when that happens, they may start believing that there's nothing wrong with them. And if nothing's wrong with them, then they won't have to be a fix. They won't have to look for a fix inside of a pill or some form of treatment that possibly and probably is actually perpetuating the conditions they want to treat. And then we look at the claiming your UnDoctor identity ritual. This is a ritual to affirm who you are as an identity by fostering your commitments and connection within our supportive community and the community outside. So here's a couple places where you can take out your phone and use these QR codes. And the QR code here is for the freedom folder we just described, and the QR code here is for the school community. So inside of the school community, we have the program that I just spoke of. It's a program. We have about 300 participants there, and what they're really looking for is great conversation. They're looking for somebody to step in, be curious, share openly and honestly from your center, from your core, and be authentic. And it's like-minded people looking for better ways, or should I say more adaptive ways of dealing with the discomfort that is often inherent in life. We can go there by going to the school community /Welcome to Humanity, or you can just take a QR code picture of this code, and it'll take you to the entry place where you can sign up. And being part of this group right now in this setting allows you a free membership as a founding member, which is great because it's going to be at least $29 a month shortly, so you will be getting in for free in a lifetime way. I mentioned the Moss Method. We're going to talk a little bit about the Moss Method now. There are 10 pieces of the Moss Method. I didn't make up any of them, but I have compiled them because they actually work in the areas of helping people get what they need in life. And so we'll talk about the first one. This is something I do each and every day. I wake up, I have a little prayer that I say, and then I put my hand on my heart, or maybe both hands, and I acknowledge at least 10 things. I start each day by acknowledging and appreciating the positive aspects of 10 things in my life to cultivate a mindset of abundance and joy. Now, I sleep with my wife nearly every night, so the first thing, since I'm saying it out loud, is I put her name first so that she knows that she remains number one on my list. And I recommend if you're sleeping with someone and you want to maintain a relationship that you do that as well. The second thing I do, and shortly after maybe going to the restroom and taking care of some business, I step outside. I find my way to the door, to the deck, to the backyard, and I actually gander outside, step outside and appreciate nature. Appreciate the expansiveness, the infinity, the whole the whole eternity of space. I step outside and I appreciate that, and I get the air and I listen to what's out there, and maybe I see a squirrel, or I feel the flowers or the foliage or the sunrise, whatever space it is. And in that process, I am freed from thinking that life is going on inside of my head or inside of these four walls. Meditation is an important part of my practice and probably should be for you as well, but should is a careful word, only if you're interested. And meditation, sitting still and silent for up to 20 minutes, is so effective at getting myself to realize that I am not my thoughts, I'm not my feelings, I'm not my emotions and my sensations, my fears, my regrets, my resentments. I'm not my desires, I'm not my concerns, I'm not my distress. I am not any of those things. Although I have all of those things, I don't have to declare myself to be any of them. I'm the agent that holds all the many flavors. So sort of like the table at the smorgasbord. I am the table that holds a smorgasbord, but I'm not any one item. And meditation is a great place for me to learn that I am the carrier of these experiences, but I don't have to become those experiences in the meantime. Yoga, Tai Chi, and again, non-combative martial arts help us with the triad, with really the mind, body, and soul, mind, body, and spirit, of putting those things together. They're not simply postures. There was things that have been designed and perfected, awarenesses, effective modalities. So time-tested and proven. Breathing. There are many different kinds of breathing. We talk about Wim Hof. We talk about box breathing. We talk about 3-7-8. There's some really cool ways to learn how to breathe, and those things can really adjust how we see the world as well. So early in the morning and getting all these things done can go a long ways to open up the possibility of having a life that works rather than a life that I'm being dragged through for survival. I take a cold shower every morning. Some people cringe at this. The idea, of course, is that, what I do is I step in when it's still warm. I don't walk into the cold shower first thing in the morning. I get myself a little bit comfortable. I look at that knob and I turn it down all the way. Although I stay in for a few minutes, I invite you to stay in for a few seconds if it's your first time and just see how it feels. It's so reactivating. It's so revitalizing. It's kind of wonderful. Although indeed, it's jolting. It's not as bad as you might think. And so you do many more worse uncomfortable things during the day than take a cold shower. Organic foods, what I mean by that is really clean foods. What I'm not talking about is like minimal or no GMOs and no fertilizers, no poisons, no toxins. This is what I'm really saying is that we want food that is actually earthy, that was food when it was designed, and not food that was designed to taste like food or to look like food, but instead be made with human designed chemicals. The idea of actually eating real food, that's what our body is ready for. And oftentimes we equate the goodness of food with how it tastes. And something can be made to taste really good in a certain way or be very almost addictive in how it's designed. And that's how the agencies or the industries get us to eat food that isn't so good for us. Because our tongue is not the designer of whether or not our food is good for us. When we say something's good, we're talking usually that it tastes good. I invite us to really go after organic foods, foods that nourish our body, and wash it away with the water that we're talking about. So creating a flow. We're living in the flow state. One of the best ways to do that is to keep ourselves hydrated by drinking half of our body weight in ounces of water every day. So if you weigh 200, 100 ounces. If you weigh 140, 70 ounces. I think you see the point. I like some cleansing foods as well, cleansing liquids, and celery juice has been thought of as being a particularly amazing cleansing liquid. I have celery juice every morning, and then I use herbal teas, often the oolong or the Chinese teas, to help me stay in the flow state along with my water, and the medicinal qualities that are understated that are in these drinks is very important as well. How to avoid white powders. That includes cocaine, but I'm not really talking only about cocaine, like refined sugars and flours to maintain stable blood sugar levels and optimum health. And these foods have been designed in the industrial complex and the ones that have white powders. And there's generally no studies that show that they do anything good for us, and lots of studies that show that they hurt us. Creativity. I wrote a book called The Creative Eight. Art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, gardening, and are the creative eight. And we start looking at getting involved in those things. When I'm miserable, when I'm not feeling well for whatever reason, off-centered or imbalanced in any way, when I do any of the creativity, performing arts or visual arts, I get relieved a little bit, sometimes diminished, but sometimes just extinguished altogether. And then I have a choice when I'm done with that activity, whether to go back to how I was feeling beforehand, which sometimes feels like the right default because familiarity has its way, or to move forward from there and to walk into a life that can work as I'm designing it in a different direction. So it provides a break and an opportunity to express myself in ways that I didn't even know that I could, which allows me to resonate with people even more than my words do in a conversation. Authentic conversations. Yes, same kind of thing. This is like using words, like talking to people in your inner circle, incrementally making steps to start saying things that you otherwise used to not say. Tell somebody you love them. Tell somebody, if you want, that you took $10 from them 10 years ago and you'd like to pay them back. It's just a matter of being honest, tapping into your real self. There's honesty and there's all other choices. It's not the choice to be honest. There's a choice of honest. That's the one with the, color picture, and the black and white picture is all other choices because the rest of them are made up. So being honest is easier than you think as well, even though we choose sometimes to be dishonest in order to protect the person that we really are. It's just really just an absurd, ludicrous, preposterous way of going through life, but we'll talk about that in this course a few times. Sleep hygiene and pampering. What am I talking about here? Pampering, like, massages or pedicures or manicures or back rubs or warm bubble baths or soft music or just snuggling. All those things that can be really pampering in whatever way works for you are strongly suggested to treat ourselves like the royalty that we really are as the sovereign leader of our life. Sleep hygiene comes in many forms, including turning off our electronics, which is just a plate full of light anyways, and light is an enemy to sleep, so we turn off the electronics and we do the things like, intricate hand-eye movements, hand-eye coordinating movements, maybe drawing or knitting or origami. Or we can do other things like put in candles, soft music, maybe drink some warm herbal tea, get ourselves in a bath. You know how to really take care of yourself like you would if you had a VIP guest, because you are that VIP guest for you. Nature walks are important. I get out in nature and I really see how nature works and realize Nature's probably right in how life is going, and I have designed all sorts of things in my stinking thinking of ahead, and maybe I can learn from nature about how I can live life in a proper way. Reading books is another possibility. I suggest real books rather than Kindle for the same reasons I just spoke of, because it's not really reading when you're staring at lights. Journaling, the same thing. I suggest actually cursive writing, as it tends to go deeper internally when we write with actual pens and paper rather than poking away at a keyboard. Pets are really important. I have 3 cats, and they are the unconditional loves of my life. They're amazing. And the idea of what unconditional love can feel like in both or all directions is very important to keep ourselves fortified. The final 2 are really important and kind of go together. Spirituality, like living for a purpose of something greater than ourselves, being committed to actually something in front of us, and really getting that maybe there's something out there that is larger than us, and it can be God, it can be spirit, it can be source, whatever it is. Very important at times to move those things into your life. And then service work, helping anyone do anything, has been known to be one of the most beneficial things that we can do in life. And I think that's undeniable. When we help somebody for no reason, there is a tremendous amount that comes back in our own restoration of self. So today we're going to talk about 2 of the early Moss Method introductions, and the first one is the gratitude. It says 3 things here. I actually go for 10 things. I cultivate a mindset of abundance, and I reduce stress responses, as stated, and you can do this mentally in journal or shared with a partner, but what I do it is first thing in the morning when I wake up. The morning sky practice we talked about, spend a few minutes going out there and grounding yourself in that moment and noticing everything that's out there. It certainly supports a sense of worthwhile wherewithal, of a space of self-appreciation and of appreciation of where we're presently living. It encourages connection to nature and a sense of spaciousness beyond our internal thoughts, which we're living inside of our head. So that's it for week 1, and we clarified many different things. We'll go over a few of these things. And we clarified that labels do not define who you are. Your identity does definitely transcend the diagnosis you've been given or agreed to accept. And we'll talk more about that as the weeks go on as well. We also explored how daily journaling, like actually hand and pen to paper, can uncover so many truths and give us a possibility of learning things about us that maybe we didn't have access to when we were simply thinking. The third thing we can talk about is the importance of the reset circle, getting in there and being in community, and then finding a partner there for sustained support, because this program, and really all programs, have to be done by community in order to be globally effective. We answered some questions about what sovereignty is. We talked in brief about that, and moving beyond the old narratives is another thing that we did this week. We encouraged consistent practice of gratitude and nature-based anchoring techniques, and we did that as well. And it's truly been an honor to share this with you. Now, if you have any questions for me, what I invite you to do is to go to drfred360.com. And from there, you can actually contact me from the contact button, text me with your who you are, your name, and your best email. And myself, or maybe my team, but myself will get back to you to answer any of those questions as we proceed forward. However, you got this message, whether it be on social media or it be in the school group, or you just receive some sort of advertisement to come in. Whatever that is, you can also use that method, the DMs that might come through the social media platforms or through school or through just a regular text messaging. I also can be found on WhatsApp, and it's my pleasure to be here for you each and every week. We're going to do this for the next 8 weeks. Thank you so much for being part of the initial cohort and for being part of the Reset Circle. It's very important to me that we actually work towards transforming the narrative of mental health on a global scale. As we can see, we're not getting that much healthier, not quick enough anyways, and I feel like it's somewhat my responsibility and accountability, and even my purpose, to help others see ways that they can find usefulness in this challenging life and leave them to find the freedom and joy as well as satisfaction that we can have by living in a world even when it is as challenging as our present one is. But for now, I'm going to bid you farewell. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, I will catch you on the flip side. And bye for now.